अब मैंने लाइव स्ट्रीम छोड़ दी है ना। हाँ लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग मैंने वो लाइव किया है बिकॉज वो ना 25 मिनट्स बिफोर वो मैंने वो ट्रायल के लिए मिस्टेक क्रॉस चेक करने के लिए वो लाइव छोड़ दिया। जाने तो अभी मीट का विंडो दिख रहा है इसमें यूट्यूब पे। हाँ मिला है इवन इवन भी मिल गया मुझे। हाँ कोई बात नहीं फ्री कर रही है। सिक्स फ्लोर पे आ जाओ सिक्स फ्लोर राइट वाले लिफ्ट पे आ जाओ जैसे आगे राइट पे राइट साइड की लिफ्ट पे आ जाओ सिक्स फ्लोर। हाँ चलिए आ जाओ। चलिए ग्राउंड फ्लोर वन। हेलो हाँ पिंकी आजा 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 आजा। अरे वो तृप्ति पंचा भाई कौन है? हमारी जो गेस्ट है उसका नाम क्या है?
हमारे गेस्ट का नाम है प्रियंका
अभी तू लैपटॉप ऑन कर जल्दी से। मैंने सब सेटअप करके रखा है इसलिए मैंने मीट को ही लाइव छोड़ा। Who is Trupti? कौन है तृप्ति?
बच्चे कोई बच्चे तो नहीं हो गए उनको कोई प्रेयर वेयर तो कोई और ही बोलने वाला है ना।
Who is Trupti? हमारे टीचर्स अभी होंगे। यूट्यूब पे जाएगा आवाज। ऊपर बैठना तो नहीं पड़ा।
इसमें छोटी सी होती है क्या?
एक काम कर पिंकी ओपन दिस टेबल
या एक चेयर दे दो ना।
चेयर चलो बड़ा वाला नहीं है
तुम कभी चले गए ऐसे तो पैसे जरूरत नहीं है इसमें नीचे ही बैठो
मांडी पर बस वरती बस नहीं व्यवस्थित बस मांडी पे बस चार्जिंग है ना। अभी तो तेरा वाईफाई यूज करने वाली है या मेरा? क्योंकि मेरा लाइव छोड़ा तो फिर यहाँ पे अगर बैंडविड्थ नहीं जाना तो तू तेरा यूज कर। बीच बीच में अगर हमें लगता है कि हाँ पकड़ सकता है प्रॉब्लम। और सुन ना अटेंडेंस ले लिमिट का मीट का तेरे लैपटॉप पे ले अटेंडेंस। अरे स्टूडेंट्स क्यों ज्वाइन हो रहे हैं यहाँ पे मीट पे?
फिर से गलत लिंक होती है।
Uh, Anushka,
Yes, teacher.
have you shared the Meet link with any students, any of the student?
No, teacher.
Because Ojas Jagtap, then Vihan Bhartiya, they have joined. I don't know how they have joined. Because strict
Teacher,
has
I
said,
just now opened the link.
oh,
I did not.
very good. Because in the mail itself, I clearly mentioned that you, Anushka and Swada, don't have. Oh, एक मिनिट स्ट्रीमिंग केलेलं आहे युट्यूबला. So stay on mute, okay? Anushka.
Yes, teacher.
एक सेकंड. हाँ, कहाँ जाना है क्या बोलते हैं मैंने बोला आपको लैपटॉप से क्या डाउनलोड करना है बस और यहाँ से फिर खोल लो मेरे साइड में ये
गौरी टीचर
हाँ 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 यस रूपा टीचर
can we ask students to leave the group, leave this meet link and join from YouTube?
I have asked you already. Don't worry. Only Anushka and Swada will be with us, and this meet link now this meet window I have shared on YouTube. Live streaming is started already. त्यामुळे
Okay,
आपण
okay.
म्यूट वरतीच राहूयात सगळे. ओके.
Okay. Anushka is going to speak, no? Welcome speech.
Yes, yes. Anushka
Yes,
will
teacher.
stay on.
Then it's okay. Yes. Anushka,
Yes, teacher.
best of luck.
Thank you.
Swada,
Yes, teacher.
all the best.
Thank you, teacher.
मैंने इसीलिए ना लाइव छोड़ दिया क्योंकि यहाँ पे चेक कर सकते हैं यहाँ पे अगर कुछ व्यू होने का नहीं चाहिए आप अभी कोई लाइव नहीं किया एक कोई तो आया है लाइव वन यूजर है ये क्या हाँ तो फिर हम दो नहीं तो मुझे वन दिख रहा है कंपल्सरी तेरा मीट का म्यूट पे रहो तो अच्छे से देख ले मतलब मुझे नहीं ठीक है ऐसा चले ना वो लिखना भी नोट डाउन भी करते रहना ना वो भी पेज चला इनके तेरा म्यूट पे था समझ में आया मुझे समझ आ गया
Anushka and Swada, all the best.
Thank you, teacher.
Swara, you have to leave the meeting. You have to compulsory attend the program through YouTube link. Thank you. किसने किया ये हो चला यार हर बार ये
स्वधा, तुझा आवाज येत नाहीये.
विजय अभी आउटसाइड जीमेल से कर रही है मैंने
Swada?
तो इनके एसएसएस से कर रही
Yes, teacher.
Okay.
इनके समहाउ हमारा ना आवाज जा रहा है बिल्कुल भी नहीं यहाँ कुछ आ रहा है
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you.
Aishwarya,
Yes, Ji.
I am writing vote of thanks. I'll send you after 5 minutes. Okay.
No need, Ajna teacher. If it is okay, your internet connection is in good health. I have no issues.
अरे I came at 5, बहुत थक गई थी.
No problem. आप मत भेजो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. मुझे लगा नहीं, मतलब मैंने सेफ
Who is
साइड बोला.
Mrudula Jadhav? Who is Mrudula Jadhav?
Hello.
Yes. Who is Mrudula?
तुला लिंक कुठून मिळाली तुला ही नेटची?
Archana teacher, Mrudula is a child from 6th standard.
Mrudula, beta, who shared the link with you?
Teacher, on 6th standard group there is link.
Who has sent that? Can you tell me the name of the teacher who has shared the link?
It is sent by the sir, but I don't know the name of that sir.
Sagar sir.
Yes, Sagar sir.
Gauri teacher, please ask Sagar sir to delete that link. Mrudula, beta, you can leave and join on YouTube.
Okay.
Please and array.
Archana teacher, can I be? Am I seen properly on the camera? Huh?
No. You're not seen properly. Akshara Pethe. I think students have started joining here. Gauri?
Yes, teacher, she is again from.
Antara Gauri? Shall we immediately? Can you change the link of Google Meet?
Yes.
Is it fine, Aishwarya, if we change the link immediately so that others will not join except we all?
Yes, sure. Just make sure that the resource person has it.
But you're visible and you're looking smart. No issues.
Thank you.
चलो मुझे अभी vote of thanks करने दो.
Standard 6
लिखो जल्दी.
Teacher, sir is deleting the messages from both the groups. He has shared the message on standard 6 and standard 7 WhatsApp group.
But Gauri, अभी जिन्होंने पढ़ लिया होगा, they all must be joining now, na?
No, not yet joined. Oh, just please leave the meeting. You have to.
That's what I'm saying. But children will be joining. So is it possible for you to change only the meet link?
Already this streaming is started on YouTube, Archana teacher.
So हम जो बात कर रहे हैं वो भी दिखेगा?
Yes, it's already streaming.
Priyanka ma'am has joined.
Yeah, great.
Hello, Priyanka ma'am. Priyanka ma'am, you are on mute.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. I am the secondary section supervisor.
Okay,
and
hi.
Aishwarya teacher is there. Aishwarya, please take over.
Yes, thank you so much, Archana teacher.
Yes.
Can we start with the session? It is already, it's about 5 minutes to the session. I request the coordinators to send a reminder on the coordinators group so that everyone will join in time. Thank you. Priyanka ma'am, we'll be starting with the session at around 7, which is the actual time given to the parents. So we might have to wait for another 5 minutes extra if the parents don't join in time.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So now can we just do a dry run if that's okay? How do I? Aishwarya, is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. And everything else is all right.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can you just go to the next slide? We just need to check the transition period.
These are the slides. Is it okay?
No, I can't see them. Okay, no, I was just asking you if you could, run the presentation that way.
So go to the next slide, right? I'm on the next slide.
Okay. Can the others see? I'm sorry, I'm not able to see it as yet. The next slide.
No, even I am unable to see the next slide, ma'am.
Okay. So do you think?
Yeah, now we can
Now
see.
okay. Now we can see. We can go back.
So it means that we can't do a fully like we can't do like a usual slideshow on Google Meet. That means.
You can. It all depends upon the internet speed also. So maybe, yeah.
So actually, I have a LAN connection, but never mind. Even this is okay, as long as.
You can try from current slide. You can start from the current slide. Let us see if it works.
Okay, right now, what are you being able to see? My presentation, right?
Now everything is black.
Okay. So just give me a minute, huh?
Yes,
Now
yes.
there is something that I need to send to my other device in that case.
Could you do one thing, ma'am? If you could send your presentation to our computer teacher as well, in case there is an internet issue, she will run the presentation for you, and you can go ahead with the session. It will be just a safe side thing that we are doing.
Sure. Why not? So just give me a moment.
I'll put the
Mail ID.
address. Yeah, I was at loss of words. I'll put the mail ID across in the chat box.
Okay. Thank you.
If you could send it to both these mail IDs so that whoever can will do the needful.
Yeah, just give me a moment. I'll send it to Gauri, right?
Both of them, ma'am.
Okay.
Gauri and Pinky, both.
So how does it work, Aishwarya? We just do this like a normal Google Meet, and then this just gets broadcasted.
Yeah, currently, if you can, we can continue with the way we are doing it. As in, you can broadcast it while you are presenting and while you are talking. I have just got you to send this on a safer side so that in case we face any internet issues, somebody else will take over the broadcasting and you can continue with the speech. In which case, you'll have to inform whenever they have to change the slide.
Sure, sure.
Could the coordinators tell us how many parents have joined the session so that we can decide upon starting the program?
Is this the first session, Aishwarya?
As in, ma'am? What do you mean?
Is the secondary section scheduled before the primary section, or the session for the primary section is already over?
No. This is the first session. We'll have the rest of the sessions tomorrow.
Okay. So we'll know the response based on this session.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, teacher, could you ask one of the coordinators to check out the attendance so that we can decide? It's already 7:05 right now.
Yes, I'll do that.
I think Aishwarya teacher, we should start with the program.
Sure. Good evening, parents. On behalf of NKSS's Vision English Medium School, I, Ms. Aishwarya Paramse, welcome you all to this wonderful platform where we look forward to listening to words of wisdom from our resource persons today. Before we begin with the program, let me give a brief idea about the agenda of the program. The program will begin with a prayer by Ms. Swada Gosavi, our student from Standard 8. This will be followed by the speech where our student, Ms. Anushka Kakade, will welcome all the guests and the audience for the workshop to be held today. After the introduction of the guest speaker, we would begin with the session, followed by the question answer session, which would last for around 20 minutes. Hereafter, we would have the finalist vote of thanks, which would be proposed by the secondary section supervisor, Mrs. Archana Kanoria. Here, we would request the parents to post their questions in the chat box given in the YouTube session, which is going live right now. And the teacher will post the questions on your behalf to the resource person. The parents can pose these questions in Hindi, English, or Marathi. I now invite Ms. Swara Goswami to recite the prayer. Thank you so much, Swada, for a melodious beginning full of positivity. I now invite Ms. Anushka Kakade to welcome the guests, parents, and the dignitaries attending the session.
Okay. Good evening to all. On behalf of Vision English Medium School's headmistress, Mrs. Kanchan Satpute Madam, all teachers, committee members, and staff members, I, Anushka Kakade of Standard 8, take this opportunity to welcome our guest speaker, Ms. Priyanka Patole, and all the parents to this parenting workshop. There is no doubt that the period of pandemic has brought parents and their children more close to each other and understand each other's problems in a better way. But this pandemic has also raised few questions in the minds of the parents as to how to give or make their children cope up with the changing times as well as the changing form of education. I am very sure that this workshop would definitely empower all the parents with effective ways of parenting. I once again welcome everyone and request Aishwarya teacher to guide further. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anushka. It is said that a combination of enlightenment and encouragement paves the way for upliftment. A bit of either of these in isolation will lead us nowhere. We have amongst us an eminent personality, Ms. Priyanka Patole ma'am, who would be giving us an overview of the topic of the factors causing stress among children, especially in the current time, and the probable solutions to all these issues. But before we begin with the session, let me give a brief introduction about our guest speaker. Mrs. Priyanka Patole is a practicing psychologist, psychotherapist, and art-based therapist who has been running her who has been running her private clinic for the past 6 years, where she has been dealing with adolescents, children, and young adults. She also has an experience of human resource wherein she has been dealing with companies such as Tech Mahindra, FIS, EXL, ELX, etc. Her 3-year-long work with the children of NGO-run schools of Akanksha have enabled her to step into the field of socio-emotional development of children. Her art-based work has also received paramount appreciation. Mrs. Patole runs an organization called Mind Forces, which works towards empowering key social structures vis-a-vis schools, parent circles, and colleges with age-appropriate psychoeducation and intervention, wherein these aim to inculcate self-care, the importance of expression, and respect. Her ultimate aim is to spread awareness about mental health. Welcome, ma'am. I now invite our guest speaker to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aishwarya and the team, for such a warm welcome. It gives me immense pleasure to be here with the parents.
Aishwarya
students,
teacher, thank you so much. Can you put yourself on mute? Sorry, Priyanka ma'am, because the voice is getting echoed at YouTube channel. So I request all the participants at Meet Link to mute their mics so that Priyanka ma'am's voice will be audible. Yes, Priyanka ma'am, you can continue. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you once again to the team members of VEMS. I am honored and I'm very grateful that today Mind Forces can contribute in some way to a cause that is very important to you and your students and the parents. So we will start with the session. I have also received a few questions from the school, and I've tried to answer those through the the presentation that we will be starting with. In any case, whatever questions parents would have, please feel free to ask. We will try and answer as many questions as we can in the last 20 minutes. Okay, with that, I'd like to begin with my presentation. I hope that the slide is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right. So, as we all are aware that since COVID struck, there have been great amount of changes that have happened in everybody's life, and there may be hardly, individuals who have not been affected due to the sudden changes that this pandemic brought into our lives. If you remember, it was one fine night the Prime Minister said that we all need to be bound in our own houses, and we did not know what lies for us ahead. And since then, we've been struggling with the lockdowns and unlocks and all the changes that it has got along with it. So the school has invited me to share a few facts and to help parents get an understanding of how this particular situation is impacting adolescents in particular. Okay, so I think it's very important for us to understand what adolescence itself is to begin with, because this particular developmental stage brings in many challenges along with it as is, and which means that adolescents anyways are prone to a great amount of stress. School being a place where they get an opportunity to be with their peer group, discuss their problems, or meet with their teachers and mentors and discuss whatever difficulties they may be going through. They don't have this particular this particular they don't have the school anymore where they can go and discuss all of their issues. So it becomes very important for parents who are now forced to do this 24/7 to understand what adolescence primarily means. We will then go into what stress is. We'll try to first understand the biological, psychological, social aspects of the human stress response. We'll look at how stress manifests in adolescence, what are its different types, how do they respond, and then we will move to more COVID specific challenges and stressors. We will also look at effective coping strategies, and I have also tried to include something which is of pressing concern for many parents who walk into our clinic for help regarding screen and screen usage. It's a very beautiful stage. However, it's yet a very challenging stage in a human being's life. You all remember being an adolescent at one point in time, and the many thoughts and the many various reactions that we have witnessed, which really left us surprised. Little did we know that it's the developmental functioning that is leading to all our reactions and the way we thought. So it is important for us to understand what children actually go through in this phase. So if you notice, an adolescent would be interested in knowing how he or she is looking. They become more and more conscious about the way they look, the way their body looks. A lot of times there are romantic interests that they develop. They constantly want to be in touch with their friends. At times they find it very difficult to connect with their family members. There is a lot of a need to conform into their peer group. They want to be accepted and liked by their friends. Being out with friends and exchanging thoughts, exchanging emotions is extremely important for them. So yes, adolescence is, if we have to really look at a metaphor, is like a Torah. The way it goes like this, and it also goes like this. So it's actually very difficult for an adolescent to get hold of what exactly he or she is going through. At one moment they may feel they are very happy, but maybe a few hours down the line they'll be so upset that no one would believe that this child was actually very happy and motivated some time back. Yes, so there is a lot of mood swings, there is a lot of disturbance in the way they sleep, the way they interact with parents or with other people in the family. So yes, adolescence is a phase of transition. It's a period of change. It's a period of chance. Like all parents like to call it, it's a problem age. And yes, if you think from an adolescent's point of view, it is a stage where they are actually looking for their identity. They have learned a lot from their environment, which is the school, teachers, parents, siblings, and now they are ready, prepared enough to go look out for who they really are. What are those values that they want to hold on to? What identity do they want to be? So this is a phase where they individuate away from their family and try to be a person of their own. Let's have a look at what adolescence is. So if you have to really break it down for a better understanding, there is development happening largely in 4 areas. There is physical change, there is cognitive change development, there is psychological, and then there is a social emotional change as well. So if we notice the physical changes, they suddenly start looking different. In girls, we will start noticing changes in their body much sooner than we would notice in boys. But yes, boys also suddenly shoot up, their height shoots up, they start getting facial hair. For girls, they start getting breast buds. So, this is how they look different physically. What we need to understand as parents is there is a sudden growth spurt in this age, right? Which would mean that it requires a lot of effort on their part to respond to this growth spurt. So ideally, if you remember your child when your child was probably between the age 0 to 2 years, right? There is a rapid development that happens. When the baby comes is probably as long as your half the size of your arm, right? And by the time he or she is 2 years old, the height has increased, their weight has increased, and it is really fast. So the it's much rapid in comparison to the other developmental ages, right? So there is a similar spurt that happens in adolescence. There is a sudden growth, which means that it puts pressure on the way they respond to that growth, right? There is a change in their skin, voice, they get body hair, right? Then sexual maturation sets in. They start losing the childlike fat, right? Their bones are growing, their muscles are growing at a much faster rate. So they're still struggling with some amount of balance because the coordination does get affected. There is a fluctuation in their basal metabolism, which leads to periods of restlessness and a phenomena called lassitude. So in our clinic, we all most of the times when we are dealing with adolescents and difficulties that they may be going through, we often hear parents saying he or she does not sleep on time. The sleep is affected. So we need to understand that their sleep cycle, due to the sudden changes in their physical growth, gets affected. For example, as an adult, our sleep clock would start ticking in after 7. The minute it's sunset, there is a signal in our mind that, now I need to start winding up and sleep. And so we can sleep anywhere between 9 to 11. However, in adolescence, it only starts ticking in after 9 p.m. So very naturally, they tend to have these days where they sleep late, but anyhow, they have to get up early for the school. So you can imagine how groggy they would feel through the day, right? So the basal metabolism that we were referring to can lead to a lot of tiredness, can lead to a lot of fatigue, which is very unexplainable. So parents might think that he's eating well, he's drinking a lot of water, he's getting rest, but he's still tired most of the times. He's bored, he's disinterested in doing things that he's expected to do. Yeah, so that's how physical development happens in adolescence. To quickly look at the cognitive aspects of development in adolescence, you will notice that the child has now developed abilities to think abstractly. So up until now, they would relate to and believe in very factual and fact-based information that came their way. The ability to think if, but, tark vitark, right, would probably be very rare up to this age. But beyond this age, they start looking at things in a much more complex manner as well. They develop the ability to do that. The logical thinking begins, and So they are able to also create results to that extent even in their studies. So apart from that, now if we look at the psychological aspects, we spoke about identity formation. Adolescents are now going into adulthood. So they are in between being a child and being an adult. So a large part of them is habituated to being a child. They want to be also treated like a child, taken care of, given safety to. However, they also are looking forward to becoming a big person, making their own rules, questioning what other elders are telling them. They want to test it themselves before accepting something at the face value, which they were doing all this time. So this is how psychologically a shift happens in them. And the identity formation phase can be quite challenging for them as well as for the parents, because up until now, parents are used to handling this bacha in a very childlike manner, where this child is listening to you, is obeying, is following a certain schedule, is compliant with work, is okay listening to the values that you have as a family. Now when they suddenly start questioning, it becomes very challenging for parents, because parents also need transition time to understand that they need to give them that space. But very tricky for the parent, because the parent may be in a fix, because at times that intervention may be taken very openly, but there may be times where the adolescent may just throw a fit and accuse you of intruding into their space. So it's all about being attuned to what they really are looking for in that moment. Most of the times they are just looking for acknowledgement. They're looking for that okayness from you for testing their limits. Yeah. Now we look at the social emotional changes that happen. There's a heightened need to belong to peer group. So abhi tak they had friends. They were playing with those friends, but they came back home and a large part of their belonging was with the family unit. However, now we saw in the other aspects, they are really looking forward to growing and experiencing the world in their own way. It becomes very tricky for others to understand this need exactly. So, who would understand this best? Someone who is sailing in the same boat, which is another adolescent, which is why their need to belong to the peer group becomes very, very prominent. Another reason is also because they are growing, and there is a lot of emphasis on the way they look, the way they come across. They want to know if they are accepted by their peer group. Are they cool enough, right? So, yes, there is a very high need for belonging to the peer group. They like to experiment with new behaviors. So a lot of times we'll see that they're doing things which they had not done so far. So maybe so far the family had certain set of values and they were abiding by those. But now they will suddenly start experimenting. Not to worry, maybe they may not get into certain habits, but they would experiment. So that they can know for themselves what is good or bad. So in such situations, it's important for us to have very open communication with them so that they could come back. Remember, they are in between. They are not so big that they understand, and nor are they small that you can reprimand them or punish them and they'll stop doing things. They're anyway going to try and experiment things which may not be acceptable to you as parents. But the key is that we are open and we are their safe place, so they can come back and talk to us and check with us about doubts that they may have. All right. So yes, feelings of romance. We all remember when we were teenagers. We have gone through this, right? Feeling hearts all around us, feeling attracted to somebody, who's there in our class or in our surrounding. So these are all hormone-based reactions that the individual is going through. So yes, the growth spurt in the physical domain. I forgot to mention that there are immense amount of hormonal changes which are happening, right? The chemicals in the brain are changing, which is what is also leading to the physical change, the physical changes for girls and boys. So yes, so why we needed to understand adolescence. So now we know, now we can picture an adolescent, right? We can picture an adolescent, how an adolescent would be. Doesn't care a damn about who's thinking what, will wear what he or she wants, will look for peer approval, will be interested in how he or she is looking, how others, to hang out with friends. Yeah. Now imagine all of this is challenged. They are not being able to be with friends. They are not being able to get that peer approval, right? About the physical changes, it's absolutely important for an adolescent to get time and space for physical activity. It becomes more pronounced in this age. Up until now, they would play in school, they would participate in competitions, etc. But especially in adolescence, given the fact all the changes that we saw, which are happening at a very fast pace, and the adolescent is trying to cope with that, it becomes absolutely important for the child to have a good amount of time and opportunity to do physical exercise. So the pandemic has also challenged that, right? Okay, so just a quick video to understand how an adolescent brain works. Okay, um, try to be with the video. Maybe don't get into too many details. All you need to understand that there are two parts in the brain that the video is focusing on. There is a certain part of the brain which is fully developed for the adolescent, which is related to the emotions. Okay, and then there is the prefrontal cortex, which is the latest development in the human brain, which allows us reasoning, which allows us to think, which allows us to analyze, put things together logically, right? So that we are fair to the environment around us. So that's why they say humans have an ability to think. So that is our prefrontal cortex. Unfortunately, with adolescents, that is still catching up, and probably it gets developed only up to the age of 20. So until then, imagine that there is a rebel which is trying to be all over the place. So when you feel emotional, you uh, you do notice, right? Emotions can be all over the place sometimes, and we sometimes lose a touch of our surroundings, and we can react, right? So that is the nature of emotions. They are meant to be like that because there are certain feelings which become difficult to contain, and so they come out that way, right? So imagine then that particular area is the rebel, and the police, which is the prefrontal cortex, is not yet well equipped to handle that rebellion, right? So for you and me, emotions happen, right? And we do feel angry, we do feel like reacting. But we have the prefrontal cortex, which is developed over a period of time. And we know that maybe right now I'm feeling angry with this peer or with this colleague, but I cannot lash back at them or say things to them in front of others. So you hold back, you reason out, and then you go back and you tell them what actually hurt you, and you kind of do problem solving, right? So for them, that is missing. Let's have a look how that works. I hope that this is visible. Aishwarya?
No, ma'am. We are not able to see the video.
Okay. Is it visible now?
Gauri teacher, can you help?
Maybe I just have to present this tab. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, ma'am. Share with the tab.
Is it now visible?
Esteemed and enlightened PFC keeps a lockdown on
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay.
all our emotions and encourages reason and moderation. The extremist part of the brain, the hormone-driven limbic system, is ruled with an iron fist. However, the all-powerful PFC's rise to power is slow compared to its opposition, the hormonal limbic system. In short, the part of the brain responsible for your teen's emotions and outbursts is fully mature, but its counterpart, which filters what we say and do, isn't mature until their early 20s. Your teen is literally bursting with intense feelings. Dopamine, the happy hormone, will never be present at such high levels as it is in the teen years. Not on your wedding day, not when you get that corner office, not ever. So, when your teen says, you just don't understand, she's actually right. On top of this, because her brain is still maturing, your teen's biological stress response is the complete opposite of yours. Hormones that make adults and kids calm down in the face of challenges have the opposite effect in teens, who become moodier or more volatile. But that doesn't mean you should just let these emotional time bombs walk around ticking. It's your job to turn them into fully functioning adults. Think of yourself as the interim dictator and follow these steps to maintain order. The limbic system reacts to praise with happy hormones. So, be literal with your praise of the good, mature, restrained behavior that you want to see more of. The more your teen feels praise for good behavior, the more likely they are to continue to do it for the happy dopamine high. Choice, even just the illusion of it, increases compliance. Teens are striving towards independence, so giving them choices helps them to feel autonomous, while still allowing you to guide them. Make sure you only give choices you can accept. Don't offer false choices, or your teen may call your bluff. Studies show that teens are more likely to misinterpret facial expressions, frequently mistaking fear and shock for anger. Practicing a poker face gives your teen fewer opportunities to mistake your expressions for a provocation. Studies have shown that teens are able to reason like adults, but not in emotionally charged situations. So, the biggest trick to strengthening the PFC is to remove the stress from the experience. This way, your teen has space to reflect and respond rather than react immediately. One way to do this is to pause in the midst of a heated argument and come back to the topic when things have cooled down. Modeling is one of the single biggest influencers of kids' behavior as they get older. If you want a PFC to grow faster, you have to set a good example. Show him there is a way to be angry and still act respectfully. When you and your teen have cooled off, ask them the questions you want them to ask themselves as an alternative response. Watch out for phrases that usually pop up in arguments, such as, I told you so, or because I said so. You don't know what you're talking about. These actually weaken the PFC, inflame the limbic system, and build resentment. Having boots on the ground helps to buffer her from the volatile limbic system. Remember that when your teen is being annoying and pushing you away, she actually needs you most. Research shows that even the mere physical presence of a parent benefits teens. Yeah, we know you've heard this before. But seriously, your teen, preoccupied with his emotions and independence, will communicate much less than ever before. It's up to you to keep talking and listening. Until the day that the enlightened PFC rules jointly with the limbic system.
Well, so we saw how challenging it can be both for the teens and the parents, given the fact that the development is still in progress. While we have seen this, we also need to remember that now they have developed an ability to look into the future. Think so. Up until now, probably they were not discussing aspects of what they want to be very seriously. But now they are actually doing research. They're trying to find out from other people what they do in their job or what they do in to earn money. So their interests in these things will start coming in because now they have developed an ability to look into the future, right? Yet, not to forget, they are torn between, being conforming to their peer group. At the same time, they also need that support from parents. So like we saw in the video, it's important for us to know that we are actually doing the role of the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, for them until the age of 20. So they are going to look up to us for support. Is this visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So with that, I will quickly now move to the next part, which is this was to give everyone an understanding of who we are talking about and how they function. Now we will look at stress in general, whether it is the adolescent or it is us. This is how stress looks like. All right. So yes, stress is something that we all experience. It is a biological and a psychological response experienced on encountering a threat that we feel we do not have the resources to deal with. Right? So there is something that is difficult, something that we may not have experience with, something that has not happened before, has suddenly happened. We are not equipped enough to handle or look at that situation. That is when the body experiences stress and the mind experiences stress, right? So if you look at these figures, you can see that stress on like the usual thing that we hear stress, there's a lot of negativity attached to that word, but we also need to understand that some amount of stress is essential for us to function. It works like an impetus. It pushes us ahead to go and take action, right? That stress is called your stress. So what could be examples of this? For example, today I had to make a presentation to so many parents, and probably I am used to making these presentations in person. I like to look at people when I'm talking, but now the medium is new. Also, the fact that I'm presenting to so many people can put me into some amount of stress, right? But that stress is necessary for me to perform well, right? At the same time, if we look at other aspects of stress, right? Which usually will happen once the threshold is crossed. So now, if you look at the other figure, it's like a scale. Now, if you look at it from 1 to 5, probably is manageable stress, and we're okay with it. Some days there is, a lot of challenges that come our way. We find solutions to it. We problem solve. We grow, right? On other days, we take a backseat and we say, okay, I don't know how to do this, and I'm okay with it. So we manage that stress. However, over a period of time, or say, in a very sudden situation also, like some unfortunate incidents, which we are not expecting, right? We'll be taken by surprise, and that will lead to stress. Okay, so anywhere between 6 to 9 on the scale is uncontrollable stress, and it could also be prolonged in nature, right? So maybe something started at 1, we tried coping with it, we grew, we learned out of it also, but parts of that stayed and we could not deal with it, and so which means we were experiencing it for a really long time. And now, when we cannot cope with it, that's when we start moving towards the red zone, right? Where it becomes a long-term stress. So that is what distress looks like. The minute it is something that we could not deal with and has continued over a long period of time, that becomes a chronic stress, which could turn into toxic stress, right? And acute stress is sudden events, death in the family, or accidents, or sudden rejection, right? These are places where we would experience the sudden shock, the sudden stress, right? That would definitely have an impact on the way we function. So that is for us to know what stress is all about. Moving to the next slide, now let's see specific to teens. Okay, so up till now we saw how teenage itself is very, very challenging. It can be one hell of a ride for the teenager, right? Now that itself is leading to a lot of stress. Let's look at what those reasons can be, right? So relationships. I was seeing someone, and then now we are not seeing each other anymore. Or there is a strong friendship that I had, but now suddenly there are differences and I can't really talk to this friend who was very close to me once upon a time, right? There is peer pressure. All my friends have got a particular brand in clothes or phone. I don't have it, right? They have to make decisions a lot of times for their class projects, for maybe choosing a subject for their major in their 9th or 10th standard, right? Exam stress can be almost experienced at, double the rate than a usual child, looking at all the physiological and psychological changes that are happening in them. There is competition. They are also trying to live up to that. Sometimes there's bullying. They have to make career choices. There are a lot of expectations from the families. There's so much that they are going through, right? So these could be any way, existing causes for stress in adolescence. How does it look like, right? How does it manifest? How will you know that your teenager is stressed? So at a body, mind, emotion, and behavior level, these are the changes you will notice. They have headaches, or they have frequent infections. Maybe they are experiencing extreme fatigue. A usual fatigue is okay, maybe 1 or 2 days it will last, but for many, many days they're just feeling tired. They don't feel like doing anything. A lot of times there are lot of eruptions on their skin. So skin problems. That's how the body will show stress. Mind, you'll notice your child worrying too much about something very simple, something you know that your child can resolve, but is really struggling because he or she is just thinking about it too much, right? Constant thinking. They are not being able to see what is right, what is wrong, right? Their judgment is impaired. They're not being able to make decisions because of that. There's a lot of negativity around them. That's how you know that the mind is affected due to stress. Behaviors. Now, this is really important. When do we know that stress has seeped in? Like actual stress that needs attention, okay? So they lose appetite, their sleep cycle gets affected, they become very restless, irritated, angry, right? So the questions that I received from the school, a lot of parents have asked, he's become very, very irritating and angry. He likes to fight at the drop of the hat. Yes, a part of it is a teenage phenomena, but if it continues over a long period of time, that is when we know that there is something that is bothering our teenager. Yeah. And then we also need to know where all this is coming from, right? So there are emotions that are affected because they are not being able to cope with certain elements. They are experiencing these emotions. So we need to know that they look. So you will see that there's usually a confident child will become less confident. The things he or she could do without help, he wants help for that. becomes more fussy, irritable, sad most of the times, maybe likes to keep away from everyone, doesn't want to talk to friends, etc. So this is how stress would manifest in adolescence. To understand this a little more better, we need to know that stress usually will happen when there is a reason, right? There is a stressor. There is a stressor. We look at that stressor and we respond to that stressor. So you may have noticed that two people respond differently to a similar situation, right? Depending on what their experiences are and what their thresholds are. We need to know that this is nothing but a response that we have to stress. So some people may experience all the emotions, they may go through that difficult phase and they may end up fighting. Some people may just run away from the situation. Don't want to face this thing right now, I'm not prepared for it. Let me just avoid this completely, right? A flight response. And some may just freeze. They may not take any action, even if they want to, because they will take some time to maybe process that, right? So let's look at how the whole process happens. There's another video that I'd like to share with you. Just give me a moment.
Pressure is nail removal and 2 months long lasting.
All you want, all you need, beauty, skin, kiss, and
sorry about this.
Beauty guarantee.
The physical response to a stressor that readies the body to physically face or flee from that stressor.
Is this visible, Aishwarya?
Yes, ma'am, but it's not getting played as
The
yet.
fight or flight response is initiated
Yes,
by the
it has.
sympathetic nervous system, the part of the nervous system that readies the body for action, and is regulated by a system called the HPA axis, a stress signaling system composed of the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands. The hypothalamus signals the pituitary gland to release hormones to communicate with the adrenal glands, signaling them to release adrenaline into the bloodstream. Adrenaline increases our heart rate and respiration and decreases functions that are not immediately essential to survival, like digestion. Adrenaline is just one of the many corticosteroids, a major class of hormones produced by the adrenal cortex. The body's response to stressors is also called the General Adaptation Syndrome, or GAS, a 3-phase response to a stressor that includes alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. In the alarm stage, the HPA axis is activated in response to a stressor. In the resistance phase, the body works to counteract the stressor. And finally, in the exhaustion phase, the reaction shuts down. For example, imagine you're walking in the woods and you encounter a snake. Your sympathetic nervous system and HPA axis are activated. You then sprint in the other direction to avoid danger, your body sustaining the elevated heart and respiration rates necessary for you to escape. And then finally, when you're a safe distance away, your breathing slows and you regain your composure. But what if you're facing a stressor that you can't flee from, like marital conflict, unemployment, or financial worries? Even though you can't run away from these problems like you would a snake, your body still reacts the same way, and this can lead to chronic or long-term stress. In the short term, corticosteroids like adrenaline and cortisol can be helpful, but their continued release in response to chronic stress can damage the heart and circulatory systems, leading to high blood pressure, heart disease, and strokes. Stress also takes a toll on the immune system, a complex network of organs that contain cells used to recognize pathogens in the body. Corticosteroids decrease the number of lymphocytes, white blood cells that assist in the immune response. 2 types into the bloodstream to fight infection. When the number of these cells decreases, it results in people being more vulnerable to viral and bacterial infections. Chronic stress can increase the likelihood of acid reflux or ulcers, and decrease nutrient absorption and increase the risk for diabetes. It can lead to inflammation of the joints and muscles, which can cause pain, and it can depress the release of dopamine, leading to a depressed mood and irritability. So although the physical response to stress is critical for survival in immediately threatening situations, often people experience a more enduring chronic type of stress that slowly erodes the normal functioning of the body. From head to toe, the physical response to stress affects the brain, the digestive system, the reproductive system, joints, muscles, and skin, in addition to the cardiovascular and immune systems, which can have devastating effects.
Okay, so we saw that there is a particular way in which our body responds to this stress, right? They were referring to this. If there is a prolonged stressor that we are experiencing, it would confuse the body, right? The example where the snake, when we see a snake and the way we are naturally created, right? If we perceive a threat, we want to protect ourselves. And so we need the adrenaline gush so that we can flee from there. We can run or take some action, right? However, in the modern day life, there are many situations or things that lead to stress, right? Which can stay for a longer period of time in our lives. This is where they are referring to chronic stress. The body cannot differentiate between a temporary stress and release. In fact, chronic stress becomes dangerous because it slowly erodes into our entire system, physiological as well as psychological. All right. Now we'll move to more COVID-specific changes. All right. So we saw what adolescence is, we saw what stress is, and we also try to understand different ways in which stress is impacting everyone, right? And we also saw that it could be very specific to adolescents. Now, with reference to COVID-related challenges, we need to understand that it's a change that has occurred, right? Any change is difficult. Any change is difficult. Over a period of time, a person tries to gain perspective, make some sense out of what it is, and tries to bring in some amount of consistency even in that change. That's how we slowly adapt to change. But here in the case of the COVID pandemic, things have been quite awry. The first wave looked different, the second wave looked different. Now we are anticipating the third wave. So it is almost like never ending, right? And every phase got in its new challenges. So it has become exceedingly difficult for everyone to really adapt to it per se. So we can say that most of us are somewhere concerned about what lies ahead for us in the future. So if we now imagine what they are going through, their 10th standard exams got cancelled, their 12th boards got cancelled. The ones who are going to go into grade 10, they are not going to get to go to school. They have not gone to school for the whole year, an important year in their life, right? And they want to know what's going to happen. Mom and dad went to office. Now they're sitting at home and working. The whole scenario is going to change. We really don't know. So none of us are being able to make sense of it. So anyways, we are in a constant, stress at the back of our head about what's going to happen, right? So this is a change that is in progress for a really long time. So now let's look at it. For an adolescent, what did it mean? There was a change in routine. Okay, now with all the changes that are happening in their body, routine is absolutely important for them. When there is school, there is a certain timetable. They have to follow it because they get up at a certain time, they go travel to school, they spend those hours in school. The school has structured those hours. They come back, they have the day structured, right? So the routine is all over the place. We have children attending classes even in their pajamas today, right? So the routine has got definitely challenged, right? Then there is a break in the continuity of learning. We have to understand that virtual learning has brought in a lot of inequity in resources. There might be parents who are not being able to provide the infrastructure as well as it may be required. That is impacting the way a child is learning. Maybe there are connectivity issues. It can be very difficult for them to sustain their attention with all these disturbances, right? So yes, the big break after the first wave where they just stopped attending school till the time online came in, they're getting accustomed to it, and then the other aspects, right? So there has been a break in the continuity of learning, and which has affected children in a big way. There is a loss of, you know, we don't know how a child is really responding to, the adolescent is responding to the many events that they're missing out on, right? We saw that for them it's important to be with their peer group. There are so many things that they have missed out on. They have missed out on those birthday parties, they've missed out on those gatherings in school, they've missed out on many such social events which they looked forward to, any child look forward to, but given the stage that they are in, it becomes all the more important for them. They may have missed out on important marriages that they wanted to attend in the family, many such, right? There is also a loss of security and safety, which most of us are experiencing. Yeah. So, what are some of the measures that we can take? Very specific to COVID. Okay, we will look at measures and coping coping strategies in the slides ahead. But right now, specific to COVID, I think it's very important that we all recognize and address the fear and stress that we all are going through, right? It's important to say, yes, that I am a little unsettled, or I am a little worried, or I'm upset, right? Whatever we may be feeling. It's important to also reassure the child that what you are feeling is what I am feeling, or, there is definitely there's definitely a reason for you to feel that way. And reassuring the child after acknowledgement that this is something we all are in together and we will overcome it over a period of time, right? So that reassurance is extremely important. Now, a lot of times we see that parents end up giving false assurances to children. In the age where the news is blaring into their ears, the daily numbers, the risks that each wave is bringing in, it may not help for us to hide facts from children, because now these children are no more small children who are going to take things at the face value. Remember, they're going to go and check things out for themselves. So it's important that we give them very honest and accurate information. And if we don't have it, we say we don't have it, right? We help them create and maintain a consistent daily routine. Very, very important. Remember attending school in pajama example? Yeah, that literally happens. So when does a child then have a bath? When does he then have breakfast? Right? Because he has the whole pressure of maintaining that online setup, the screen, attendance, making sure that he's making his notes. So it's all challenging for him, right? Amidst all this, it's extremely important that we help the child form a routine. Yeah, so even if it means the bath happens after school, but it happens at the same time every day. That's all it means. So why routine? Why emphasize so much on routine? Okay, so the way we respond to routine is we feel very secured. As human beings, there is some safety, right? Going to the same place to brush every day, having the same time to get up at, the familiar setting in the house, the familiar routine in the house gives us some amount of safety. So the least we can do is create a routine and have them follow that. We encourage a healthy and a wholesome diet, right? Very important to acknowledge that they are sitting in their chair for, in front of the screen, of course, for a good 6 to 7 hours, including their homework and the school attendance, right? And with very less opportunity to go out and work out and play. So it becomes all the more important that we give them wholesome food, whole grains, pulses, green leafy vegetables, which are complex to break down, which will ensure that their nutrition needs are met. At the same time, they are also energetic, and the food they eat is also impacting their moods. Remember, so a wholesome diet is an absolute non-negotiable, especially for an adolescent. Of course, it's the rested sleep and ample amount of exercise that we have spoken about on many occasions up till now. Yeah, and what tops the cherry on the cake is walk the talk, right? So as parents, if we are telling them, remember they are challenging and checking things out for themselves before believing and accepting it. So it's important for them to know that parents are also following a routine. They are also doing all the things that they want us to do, right? So when it's children, we are also working from home, right? I'm making this presentation to you from a place which is not, we are not face to face, right? So we all are also going through the same kind of sedentary aspects in our lifestyle. So it's important that we do so that they follow, right? Okay, we move to the next one, which is okay. So here, in spite of all this, what are the significant changes, right? So now parents may say this is very generic. What is a sign of alarm? When do I know that I need to seek help, right? Remember that these are challenging times, and we may not, even if we want to, I have given birth, my child, and I should be enough to take care of all his or her needs. There may be times where we are overwhelmed by our own emotions and we may not be able to support their need, their emotional needs, right? Their psychological needs. It's important for us to acknowledge that and seek help. You all have school counselors, you all can talk to them, talk to teachers, and if need be, you can also consult an external resource for the same, right? So, what are these signs? Ongoing irritability, feelings of hopelessness, sudden rage, right? Rage is like throwing things, using bad words for family members. That is rage, okay? Not normal anger, but anger which can actually disturb the environment in the house, right? Or fights, little petty fights, but happening very frequently, 4 or 5 times a day. Throughout the week, there are fights happening with friends or with family, right? Sudden changes in behavior is something you should look for. Withdrawal from the family or friends, or lack of interest in activities which they previously enjoyed. Okay, sleep, getting up many times in the night, getting nightmares, not being able to sleep for a long time. Memory. Okay, so a lot of children nowadays who are coming into therapy are coming in with complaints of, I just forget, I wanted to answer this question, I wanted to answer the teacher, but I could not recollect, right? Their short-term memory is getting affected. And one of the main causes for that is constant, constant engagement with screens. Yeah, well, it's not just school, right? Once they have access, they are also playing games, they are surfing. There is a lot that is happening. So that has impacted. So it's very important to look for these signs. You will know that they are not being able to memorize when they are forgetting to do the things that you've asked them to do. They're not being able to focus on, say, an assignment that they sit down to do, right? Typically, a child this age should be able to sit in one place and do a task for a maximum of 30 minutes, right? 30 to 40 minutes, after which he or she gets up, right? But if it's like after 10 minutes, he's getting up and not being able to, you need to check what is it? Are you not being able to concentrate, right? If we are lucky enough and our children talk to us and we've kept those communication channels open with them, then yes, you need to know that they will come and talk to you and they will express how they feel. Yeah, so if their thoughts are destructive towards self or others, then that's an alarming sign. Yeah. So, yeah, listen, communicate, keep the channel open, right? Create spaces for emotion expression through talking, allow them to draw, express through music, encourage healthy and fact-based family discussions. Yeah. So maybe you could have a forum where everybody's anxieties about the pandemic or about any other significant aspect of the family, it could be to do with the finances of the family or the future of the children. You all could have a common discussion which would be very fact based, not feeling based. Yeah, that will also give a lot of assurance to the child. This is just a small wheel of emotions. So we have basic emotions: happy, scared, mad, sad. And this is how they, look different. They come out differently depending on the intensity of the situation that we may be experiencing. All right. So now the most important part is we saw everything. How do we cope with this, right? So there have to be coping strategies for it. We've spoken about most of it. So maybe we spoke about acknowledging, right? Most important thing is to not deny. असं काही नसतं, असं नाही होत, ऐसा कुछ नहीं, ऐसे कभी नहीं होता है, right? Deny, don't deny that. Acknowledge your child's experience. Okay, you're feeling scared. Okay, you're feeling the feeling, right? I hear you. That's all you need to know and do at that point in time. Allow the child to express his or her emotions. Maybe allow them to draw. Children at this age prefer to write their thoughts down. So encourage them. Bring them a nice book. Maybe decorate it with them if they like you to sit with them, or they can decorate it themselves. And they can pen down their thoughts and their worries in that. Journaling, right? It really helps in identifying emotions and working on those emotions. Yeah. Or as simple as it, talking to a trusted adult. Cognitive restructuring is something you can do with the help of a psychology practitioner. We saw that peer group is important. So give them opportunities to talk to their friends. A lot of times just being with your circle in a non-structured time, right? And tossing of ideas with each other, speaking about each other's worries. Just that alone helps in calming their worries down, right? School could create support groups for children who may not be able to cope, right? Or there's also a counselor you all can seek help from. Composed and supportive parents who are also tolerant of mistakes. Yeah, so we need parents who are composed. We saw that we have to do the role of the prefrontal cortex till the time they're 20, which means that we don't lose it. And even if we do, we recognize, come back to composure and very calmly handle their queries. Yeah, and be supportive and be okay with them making mistakes. Yeah, does it mean that we allow them to continue making a certain mistake? Maybe not. Maybe you speak and understand what they have learned out of it, but definitely not reprimand them for it. Meditation, yoga, yes, buzzword. Everyone will tell you, yoga karo, meditation karo, acha hai. Do you know why? You saw the whole limbic system, how it works for a teenager, right? The many hormones that are playing havoc in the teenager's body and brain. This particular form, the Indian form of meditation and yoga, works beautifully on that part, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, a part of our autonomous nervous system, which is responsible for major psychological well-being and functioning of an individual. So if they could get an opportunity to have like a group yoga with friends, rather than telling them to join a class, I think they'll enjoy and they'll reap a lot of benefits out of it. Humor, underrated. Okay, try it next time. There is a situation in the house and you want to diffuse, try cracking jokes and see how you will be able to handle it better. Exercise, we saw. Problem focused coping can be done with a counselor. Okay, we are quickly moving to the end of the presentation. I'll quickly take you through this. So a lot of parents have asked about online effects of using online media and medium for education. So let's look at some facts. Please pay close attention to these details. It's very, very important. Usually we do a separate session on this because this itself is a pressing issue now. But I really wanted to just quickly touch upon this today so that parents have something at hand when they are looking at overall stress management for their adolescents. So yes, these are some of the things that a child may be going through. A computer vision syndrome, constantly viewing a screen decreases the blink rate by 33%, creating higher evaporation rate, right? So which means that the blinking, if it reduces, which means that the eyes are running drier, and dry eyes may cause permanent damage if left untreated. Now, don't get alarmed or scared, but watch for it. Soreness, redness, right? Too much of dryness in the eye. If the child is complaining, maybe seek medical attention. All right, weight gain, sedentary, sitting in one place, sitting in the chair and attending tuitions also on the computer, school also on the computer. Free time milega to games also on the computer. So many hours of sitting in front of the computer may lead to weight gain, right? And we need to really watch that. Screen-induced disturbance in the sleep cycle, right? The circadian pattern actually refers to the sleep cycle, just for you to understand. So a 2015 study found the amount of caffeine in a double espresso has less effect. Okay, a double espresso is a very strong coffee. Espresso itself is like a shot of coffee. So a double shot of coffee has less effect on a teen's sleep schedule than bright light exposure from a digital device, be it a phone, be it a tab, be it a mobile or a television. Okay, so that is the effect it has on the brain. So we saw that anyway for the teenager, the sleep cycle is ticking in late. And now if in addition to that, they are exposed to screen towards the end of the day, it's going to push the sleep cycle even further. So we'll see a lot of adolescents sleeping at 1 or 2 a.m. in the night. The ones who are especially using screen after 8 p.m. or so. Yeah. So maybe just watch that. It affects the attention span. There have been studies to that effect. It could, now this is very important, it could damage nerves, okay? So the way we sit in front of a computer. A lot of children are using cell phones to attend online classes. Maybe that's the best possible device available for them. So when you use a cell phone, you look down, right? Now, you need to understand that our head is almost anywhere between 5 to 7 kgs in weight, right? And there are only 7 vertebrae which are supporting it in addition to the 20 odd muscles. So can you imagine the amount of load that it's bearing? So a bent head probably is equivalent to almost 27 kgs of weight that your neck is taking. Okay, so at every different angle, the weight would differ. So imagine a child holding his phone like this for so many hours. Can you even imagine what it is doing to the cervical area, the vertebrae in the cervical area? Yeah, definitely they are going to be worn out sooner than they should. It's very important to ensure that the child has the right posture. So maybe buying stands or placing the phones at eye level where the child doesn't have to use his hands. Very, very important to bring in that discipline. Yeah, text claw is using too much of your finger, right? So the finger actually gets repetitive finger motion, like texting, scrolling. It leads to cramping or soring of these muscles. Huh? So wrist pain, forearm pain. So many of us are experiencing it, right? We don't know suddenly why it starts being. So need to be careful, need to have stretches in between. We need to take breaks. We need to walk in between, right? And then we have the cell phone elbow, which is very similar. So holding up a phone like this part of the hand gets affected. So we need to understand that. So in addition to the physiological changes, stress causes, we also need to look at psychological. Less and less undistracted family time, right? So everyone is on their phones. Office is over, school, tuitions are over. Everyone has their own unique device and everyone is on phones, right? very less opportunity for family time, indifference to physical world and the people in it. That has become a reality for many adolescents. They meet their friends there, right? Through Instagram, through Facebook. And imagine there is a constant need to be liked by friends, to be with friends. And now that they can't go out, that's the only place they can relate to this growing need in them. So imagine the physical world being replaced by a device. Need for approval by online strangers. This can become a little dangerous. So if we see that, we need to really be careful of cyber security. We need to see what sites, are coming up for our child. Are they safe? All of that. In addition to, strangers approaching our children, and children wanting to seek that approval, to be liked by that stranger, because naturally they are in an age where they want to be liked, right? At the same time, they don't have the prefrontal cortex as developed as us to understand right and wrong. So it's very important for us as parents to pitch in there, talk to them openly about it. So there is a great amount of dependence on the virtual world for all of us, more so for adolescents. Prioritization of impersonal communication, right? Communication has become very impersonal. Digital world is consuming teens, leading to unhealthy obsessions that affect family relations. So screen time should not, what as parents you need to understand, not make it very complicated. Just very basic and simple. It any form of screen time, okay? Be it a television, mobile, tab, laptop, computer, any amount of screen time should not replace the time that they need for their healthy development, right? So it should not, their sleep time should not be compromised, eating should not be compromised, they're eating in front of the screen. No, eating is a process you need to be connected with, right? It has to be on the table, you're feeling your food, you're allowing it to nourish you. So sleeping, eating, being active, studying, and interacting with family members, all 5 important aspects of their development should not be affected. That is how parents can calculate how much time they should allow children. Okay. Now there have been a lot of studies, and this is of course pre-COVID, but not more than 2 hours of time should be allowed for online usage or online device usage for children in this age group. Okay, so this is some of the research data I thought I'll share with you guys. Okay, so we'll quickly move to. So, how can we help in this situation? We can set usage limits, keep devices in public place, try to have common areas where they attend classes, so that even if they are tempted, not with a point of view to be a watchdog on them, but if we notice something, Ori, then we know and we can talk to them about it, right? Homework has to be digital device free zone. So I know that schools are sending homework digitally, but at the end of the day, you have to do it in a book, right? So try to keep devices away. No devices near you when you're trying to process information. Very important 2020 rule. Give your eyes a break from the screen. Every 20 minutes, try looking away 20 feet away from yourself at some object, maybe outside the window, for at least 20 seconds, right? So that will allow the eyes to gain back the moisture that they lose. Need to negotiate screen time in proportion to the outdoor activities. So teens are very smart. They will want the screen. So trade it with them. That many hours of outdoor activity, only then this many hours of screen. Yeah, they would need screen for games, etc. Monitor on the limits that you have set. Again, lead by example. And if you can, try to bring in rituals, family rituals. A lot of families just deposit their phones at 7:30 p.m. to one particular member in the family, and no one uses their phones. So it's an indication for the whole family that it's time to catch up with each other, eat a meal together, start unwinding for sleep, maybe look at a book, talk to each other, right? So this will go a long way. So with that, we come to an end, and these are a few services that we offer. You can have a look at it. We have our centers in Pune, and you could get in touch with us. We also are into career assessments, and we can definitely help you and your child look at a very holistic assessment of their interests, personality, aptitude, EQ, a lot of factors, and then maybe come at what would be the best suited career for them. Yeah. With that, I will stop my presentation and we can go in for the questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for an enlightening workshop. We throw the session open for questions. I hand over the mic to Kirti teacher. Kirti, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Aishwarya teacher. We request parents to post their questions in the chat box. Parents, you can post your questions in the chat box, if any.
Kirti teacher, are the parents typing questions?
Archana teacher, after 25 seconds, the voice has been heard on YouTube. So let us wait for a few seconds for posting the questions.
Okay.
Parents, we request you to post the questions in the chat box.
In the meantime, I would like to understand if all the aspects that the school wanted have been covered. If there is anything that is left out, maybe you all can just bring that to our notice.
Ma'am, I think we have covered most of the points which we were wanting the parents to know about.
Okay.
Having said that, I'm sure if the parents have any queries, they would put them up on the YouTube channel.
Yes, Aishwarya teacher, till now we don't have any questions.
Okay, so should we move ahead? Parents, we would like to move ahead with the program. And if there are no questions, we would like to move on to the vote of thanks. I request Archana teacher to propose the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Yes, Aishwarya teacher. Kirti teacher, I request you to mute. Aishwarya teacher, please mute. Am I audible?
Yes.
You are.
Okay. Good evening, all the parents. Gratitude is not only the greatest of all virtues, but the parent of all other virtues. On behalf of MKSS Vision English Medium School, I, the secondary section supervisor, am here to propose the vote of thanks. It gives me immense pleasure to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our guest speaker, Ms. Priyanka Patole Madam, for giving an excellent presentation and enlightening all the parents present here on this online forum today. Thank you, Priyanka Madam, for presenting this complete package, which included psychological and physiological issues, along with the crucial issue of adolescence, stress amongst the children, and also how to deal with the situation of COVID in such an easy and interesting manner. I think someone's mic is not on mute. The takeaway for me from today's workshop is, to name a few of them: do not be a dictator. Give choices to our children that we can accept to avoid false promises. Give time during a heated argument and let the situation cool down and then get back to the topic. Have patience and compose. Sharing correct information with them, acknowledge their work and thoughts, listen and keep the communication channels open. Importance of healthy diet and correct postures of sitting. Physical presence of parents is a must, and give quality and quantity time to our teens, as they just need us to share their happiness or sorrows. I would like to render my gratitude to our respected committee members for always being supportive and guiding force for all of us. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our headmistress and school counselor for arranging such forums for our parents, which helps all of us to cope up with our stress or issues concerned with our children. A big thank you to all the teachers and especially the technical team for all the technical help rendered by them. Lastly, I would like to thank all the parents who joined us today for this workshop. I'm very sure this workshop has empowered all the parents with effective ways of parenting and has opened a new horizon in parenting, which would lead to stress free parenting. I would like to end by stating a simple expression which states that parents are the best friends that a child can have in life. So, let us all become good buddies for our children and give them the best experiences of life, which would enable them to face the world with confidence and a huge smile on their face. With this positive thought, I declare this session as over and request all to leave the group. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much,